Triple E EDC back again with another knife video. This is the Benchmade 591 Boost. This is an interesting knife. This is sort of a specialty knife and not a knife I originally planned on acquiring, but I saw one come up for a decent price and I said, you know what, I have to check this thing out because it's just so interesting. And so let's go ahead and talk about this. But first, let's do some size comparisons. This is going to be the Spyderco Paramilitary 2 and the Para 3. How about the Benchmade Super Freak and the Ritter Hogue? The Benchmade Griptilian, and the Kershaw Bareknuckle, Benchmade 940, and the Spyderco Shaman. Okay, hope that was helpful with these size comparisons. Let's go ahead and talk about this knife, the good and the bad. So let's talk about the good in this knife. The good of this knife, first of all, is just the design idea of it. It's very interesting. So the design idea of it is that you have a pry tip here. And well, let's first talk about the Boost. So the Boost family, the Boost is a family of knives in Benchmade. Not all of them are shaped like this. Most of them actually have a black handle and a black blade, I believe. They are mostly drop point, not necessarily chisel ground like this one. And this one's sort of its own monster. So we're just going to be talking about this one. I actually have never handled the original Boost. So I would love to handle one of those one day. But this is sort of a specialty one. So let's go ahead and talk about what makes this different and what makes this good. So first of all, one thing you notice right away is this pry tip. And also the fact that this is 3V. Okay, why is that important? So the reason this is 3V is because they wanted to use a steel here that would stand up, that's tough enough to stand up to the lateral forces of prying. Okay, on top of that, they also did an offset grind here. And what is an offset grind? It means that, watch where the grind is, how high the grind is here, and then watch on the other side how low it is here, right? So you have sort of in the middle of the knife here, you have the grind, and then at the top of the knife, you have this grind. What does that do? It creates, I don't know if I can sort of show you, I gotta bend this because I'm under the camera. So it creates lateral strength because you have a thickness on this side that's higher than the thickness on this side. So it remains thick pretty much all throughout the middle of the knife here because it's thick up here and thick down here. And together it makes it very thick all the way through. So when you're prying with this, the lateral force that it can take is pretty amazing. If you guys haven't seen it, Big Brown Bear, which is an awesome YouTuber who does a lot of knife making and knife sharpening stuff, and he's awesome with that stuff. So he has a video of this. Go look up Benchmade Boost, Big Brown Bear, and he has just this. He takes apart a wooden crate just with prying with this knife, and he also tries to hack at the wood and everything to see how the edge holds up. It's really kind of interesting to see how much abuse this thing takes. It's I wouldn't try it at home because he really is, cranking on this thing. And you can see the blade bending, but it never broke. And, it did its job prying the whole crate apart, which was, I mean, it was amazing to watch, actually. But yeah, so go ahead and check that video out, but it just shows that the pry tool on this can stand up to a lot. That being said, if you're really going to be doing that level of prying, get a pry bar. Don't use this. Don't use a knife as a pry bar. But he was just doing that as a torture test to see if it really could stand up to it. I don't advise that you actually go and do stuff like that. This is really meant for light prying as far as the missing tip here. And it is, by the way, It's not sharpened. As you can see, it's a blunt tip. I don't know if you can see that. It's flat, not pointed. So it is a true sort of pry tip. Now, one thing it's great for is, guys who are mechanics, scraping stuff off of, engines and stuff like that. Guys who are painters, scraping paint off, opening paint cans. This thing is excellent, for stuff like that. So you need a knife and you need a pry tool for opening a paint can. This solves your problem, one tool, right? So just a great design idea in that regard, and I have to commend Benchmade a lot for that. In addition, this has a chisel grind, so it's not just offset, it's an offset chisel grind. What a chisel grind is, obviously, well, not obviously if you don't know, is that it's only sharpened on one side. So if you see on this side, there really is no secondary bevel, right? It goes straight to the edge, the DLC coating on this. Then if you look on this side, you have that secondary bevel there, and that secondary bevel is your cutting edge, right? So what does that mean? So a chisel grind tends to be much easier to field sharpen because you're only sharpening one side of the knife. So that's great on something like this that might be used, around a shop or something like that. You may not have, a sharpening system nearby or something, or you may take with you, out when you're on jobs on site at like if you're a painter or something like that. So it's just great that you can sharpen this in the field very easily for the steel. Now it is 3V, so it's not going to sharpen so easily, but you're only sharpening one side. So if you had to sharpen 3V on both sides, it would be a huge pain. One thing I do want to mention though here is that the 3V here is heat treated to 60 to 62 Rockwell. Why is that important? So the Benchmade bailout had a huge controversy about a year and a half ago, probably, that they heat treated the 3V on, they put 3V on the Benchmade bailout, and everyone was really excited to see Benchmade's 3V. Then they found out it was Rockwell hardened to about 56, 57, something like that, 55, somewhere in that range. And a lot of people felt it was too soft. There was a huge controversy in all the YouTube videos about it. And so I had one of those knives. I never really had any issues with it, but a lot of other people, reported issues and of the edge not holding up and things like that. So it's important to note that this is 60 to 62 Rockwell hardness for two reasons. One is, with the pry bar, I thought it would be Rockwell maybe a little softer, and it's not. And the other thing is that the edge should hold up better than the edge on the original Benchmade bailout. I know the new one is M4, different steel. So, okay, so that's all the good there as far as the blade, and that's a lot of good packed into the blade, I have to say. Also, this is, I believe it's a DLC coating. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I know a lot of times people will use Benchmade also uses Cerakote on knives. I don't think this one is Cerakote. I think it's DLC. Again, I hope I'm right on that, but either way, you're going to get great. The biggest difference between DLC and Cerakote is Cerakote will wear away over time. DLC, won't wear away or won't get dirty. Usually if you see something on it, it's actually another material that rubbed off on the DLC. Just get a magic eraser, go over it, rub it away. It'll be brand new again. So that's great as well. Okay, so next is the handle. So the handle on this is actually really comfortable. I'd say the handle on this is probably an 8 in ergonomics. Very, very comfortable ergonomic handle design. No problems there with that. And really no hot spots. You do feel the clip though, so since this is going to be a work knife for a lot of people, it is worth noting that you're going to feel those hot spots. And, I mean, not hot spots, that you're going to feel the clip because, that might be something that annoys you. Just something I wanted to point out. Another good thing is that this is using Benchmade's, what I consider to be Benchmade's very best pocket clip, which is their longer deep carry clip. It's not painted, it's parkerized, I guess, and it's done very, very well. The retention on it sometimes loosens up over time, which is fine because you can always take this off and bend it back a little bit, but it tends to be an excellent clip, and I absolutely love it. All right, so that's all the good on this knife. Let's go ahead and talk about the bad. So first of all, on the bad, one thing is that this is, I really wanted this to be a regular manual knife. It's not, it's assisted. And I don't mind assisted knives some of the time. I actually really like the assist on the Benchmade Arcane. Let me see if I have the Arcane here. I don't think I have it, but in any event, the Arcane is an assist knife as well, and I really like the assist on the Arcane, but that had a flipper on it, and that was one of the reasons that the assist was kind of nice on it. When you have this, the axis lock, I'm pulling back the axis lock, it literally does nothing, and it's just, for someone who's used to playing with the axis lock and using the axis lock, it is a little bit disorienting, unless you're used to this knife. So just be aware if you switch back and forth between knives, that might be an issue if you use other Benchmades that aren't assisted. And there really, in my opinion, there's really no reason that this needs to be assisted. That's sort of the other thing is why is this assisted? Doesn't really, I don't think it helps anyone or anything in this day and age when it comes to, getting a job done. So, for example, this is the Benchmade Freak, right? And so if someone's using the Benchmade Freak, it one-handed, the reason to use assisted is because of one-handed use. So there's really no problem doing that one-handed, right? Is there any issue doing that one-handed? No, right? No issues. So it's actually more of an issue getting your knife closed here, especially when your hands might be full. You might accidentally cut yourself if you're not paying attention, because you've got to roll it back, and you'd be worried you might cut yourself. So I think it's probably easier that happens with this than the other knife. The other issue with it is that, well, I was going to say the blade, but let's go ahead and skip that. The other issue is going to be this lock here. So again, you can lock this. It's fine. If it wasn't assisted, it wouldn't need the lock. Because it's assisted and because it's going to be with you while you're carrying heavy stuff, if you're on construction or something, I guess the lock makes sense, but it's also not located in the best spot. So it's located sort of on the spine here, and you just have to you have to adjust your hand so many times to make sure that you get all of these, get the lock open, get the knife open, get the knife closed, push the lock up. You have to adjust your hand so many times, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I don't like that either. One of the other things I don't like is the fact that you have the clip holes have red and black in them. I think it sort of takes away from the design of the red and black to have it in the holes. Maybe you guys disagree. Another thing is the handle materials. So this is sort of the hallmark of the Benchmade Boost. You have the red and then, by the way, when I saw the videos on this originally, I assumed the red was the rubbery material. Actually, the red is the Griptilian, the plastic. So that has no grip. Then the black is the Versaflex. Versaflex is like a rubbery substance, and that gives you grip. And so when you're holding on to this thing is locked in. It's not going anywhere, really anywhere, because of that Versaflex. But also because of the Versaflex, sometimes it comes in and out of the pocket not quite as well. This gets snagged on the pocket right here as you pull it out, and that's not the best either. So, one of the issues with Versaflex, and actually that's one of the reasons the Super Freak exists, is a lot of people who got the Freak really were complaining that the Freak, which also had a combination of Griptilian and Versaflex, was causing problems in and out of the pocket. And so they came out with the Super Freak, and it was a smash success because you had much smoother G10. I know this is textured, but it slides in and out of the pocket, with no problem, because overall it's smooth and doesn't catch on your pocket. So that's all that I would say is the bad. The price on this is about $160, $162, something like that. And, I think for what you're getting, 3V is, Benchmade also does a very cheap 3V. I don't mean cheap in a bad way. I mean that they have a good value 3V on the Luku. and the Puko. So those were really around the 130, 140 mark. And so this is at the 160 mark. It's a folder. It has a couple different features on it, sort of a different grind that might, take a little bit extra. It's coated, unlike the other ones. So I think 162 is a fair price on this. Is it the best price in the world? No, especially since you're not having, since you have a Grivery and VersaFlex handle versus maybe some G10 or some other handle like that. But overall, I think the fact that you're getting 3V, again, all the grinds that you're getting, I don't think it's necessarily cheap to make it with the assist. So yeah, I mean, I because you've got to tool out all this stuff for the locking mechanism and everything is what I'm referring to. But in any event, 162 is not a bad price for this overall. Would I recommend this knife? So I'm going to tell you straight up, if you're a guy who is is looking for a knife to be a dedicated work knife, and you're looking for that type of knife to use around the house for everyday tasks, I would recommend the Hogue Ritter, the Benchmade Griptilian, the Benchmade Freak. If you're looking for an axis lock style knife, all of those knives are going to be better than the Benchmade Boost for your specific use. Also, obviously I'd recommend the Shaman or the Paramilitary 2, sort of in this price range as well, over them as well. And depending on, the size of the tasks, even the Native might be, the Spyderco Native might be something you'd want to look at as well, or the Native Chief. So those are some of the things, some of the competitors you might want to look at when dealing with this. I always also love the 940 if you're looking for more of an EDC, but I don't view this knife as an EDC competitor. I view it as sort of a work knife competitor. And so those are really the work knife competition, I think, in this price range. And so do I recommend this over this for the everyday guy? No. Now, if you are a mechanic, and this is going to be literally thrown around the shop, thrown into a toolbox. If you are a construction worker, if you are a painter, those types of jobs where you're going to be, this is going to be thrown around, it's going to be beat up, it's going to be used to pry stuff, open paint cans, maybe, pry some of the caps or connections off of a car, all those types of things. So those types of things, yeah, this is going to be for you, and it's totally worth it. So that's sort of how I would position this knife in the market, and that's what I'm going to go with for the recommendations. So if you guys enjoyed this, go ahead and like the video. Go ahead and hit the subscription button, hit the notification bell so you get all my content, and go ahead and hit a like drop a comment as well, I should say, and let me know what you think of this knife, or if you've had an opportunity to use one and what you thought. Thanks so much.